Ever since the golden age of comics, Batman has been one of the most popular comic book characters of all time. That is largely due to the kinds of villains that he faces off against. His rogues gallery is impressive to say the least, filled with colorful characters that all of us just really adore, for the most part. So today we're taking a look at some of those charismatic baddies with our list of the top 10 supervillains that Batman respects. Cause let's be honest, dude has a bit of a dark soul himself, so sometimes he relates to some of these dudes. And gals. There's a variation. So with that in mind, let's get to it. Starting us off in at number 10, Harvey Dent. While Batman may have very little respect for Two-Face, Bruce Wayne did have respect for the man that the villain once was, Harvey Dent. Yes, we are starting off our list with one of those numbers. Harvey Dent, before his incursion with the mob boss Sal Maroni and acid that Sal's gang members threw at him, was once an upstanding citizen of Gotham, the Gotham City District Attorney, who could not be corrupted and fought for justice with the same kind of relentlessness that Batman incorporated into his crime fighting. Except, you know, he did it the legal way. As you can imagine, that pissed off a whole lot of criminals in the underbelly of Gotham who could not buy Dent's compliance. Dent was a man that Bruce highly respected, which makes facing off against Two-Face particularly difficult at first for the Dark Knight. Moving on to number 9, Mr. Freeze. When Mr. Freeze, aka Victor Fries, first appeared in the comics, he was known as an ice-based criminal called Mr. Zero, kinda a joke villain, who debuted in Batman issue 121 in 1959. He wouldn't become Mr. Freeze until the character was adapted to the 60s Batman TV series starring Adam West, and later in Detective Comics issue 373 in 1968, he would eventually officially show up as Freeze in the DC panels. A cryogenics expert who lived in Gotham, Victor was attempting to cure his terminally ill wife Nora when an accident occurred that lowered his body temperature to sub-zero levels, causing him to wear his cryogenic suit in order to keep living. At the end of the day, depending on the version of the character that you're looking at, Freeze didn't turn to crime because he wanted power. He committed crimes out of necessity to save the woman he loves, or his crimes are a reaction to the tragedy of his loss. Still bad, but at least for a somewhat noble reason. Sort of. Freeze in recent years has been portrayed as a character in rehabilitation, one that, despite being in Arkham, has admitted that he's trying to be better, and that is something that Batman can get behind. In at number 8, the Riddler. You gotta give it to the Riddler. Dude is a next level genius when it comes to elaborate schemes and puzzles. Edward Nygma, one of Batman's most enduring criminal mastermind foes, first appeared in Detective Comics issue 140 in 1948, and prides himself on his intellectual superiority. And while Bruce may despise him, may constantly find himself fighting against the villain and besmirching his name, at the end of the day, he's gotta respect anyone who gives his brain something to think about, and can manage to puzzle him. That is not something any old villain can do. Tricking Bruce Wayne may come at a price, but it's definitely a feat that the Riddler is proud of, and something that Bruce can at least acknowledge. Moving on to number 7, Talia al Ghul. Talia is Ra's al Ghul's daughter, a villain that was first introduced in Detective Comics issue 411 in 1971, who quickly became a love interest of Batman's. She's also the mother of his son, Damian Wayne, the 5th Robin. But aside from that connection, she's also saved Bruce's life on multiple occasions, helping him from time to time. And another reason why she's often more respected by the Dark Knight than other villains is due to the fact that her crimes are often in the name of her father rather than her own personal gain. Talia is often morally ambiguous, but in recent times, she's become a bit more of a villain, even leading the League of Assassins. Hard to let that one slide. In at 6, Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is traditionally a Superman villain. He's the Man of Steel's arch nemesis, first appearing in Action Comics issue 23 in 1940 as a mad scientist. Over time, his character became more complex, making him a wealthy, power-hungry business mogul, and a well-known public figure who sees Superman as a threat to the existence of humanity. But despite all this, Lex and Bruce share something in common, aside from being absolute geniuses. They both understand the dangers that Superman poses. Lex is obviously a bit more extreme about the whole thing, whereas Bruce is like, yeah, I'm just gonna secretly carry around kryptonite and have a bunch of backup plans established just in case the Man of Steel ever loses his shit. Which, to be fair, has happened multiple times, primarily in alternate universes or alternate Earths in the DC multiverse. Bruce is just more low-key about the thing, whereas Lex constantly whips up evil schemes to take down Superman. And despite their methodologies varying wildly, it's without a doubt that Bruce has an understanding of Lex that others may not, and he may even secretly respect him for it. It's like, nah, I'll just have kryptonite on me at all times, no big. In at number 5, Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy has always been a villain with a point. She has a noble purpose. She wants to protect the environment and safeguard it. Except the way in which she does is arguably a little extreme. Like eco-terrorism extreme. Over the years, her and Batman have had their fair share of conflict, and of course, because she is a woman, sexual tension. But at the end of the day, Batman knows she's not a villain who threatens humanity in the ways that others in his rogue gallery do. He's come to her aid in the past, like during the No Man's Land story arc, and the two even worked together in the 2004 story Poison Ivy Casts Shadows to take down a criminal attempting to frame Ivy. By the end of the story, Ivy returns to Arkham for rehabilitation, and Batman has sent a bunch of flowers to her cell as a gift. Oh, he has a heart. The girl's like, I just want some plants, which then she might actually use to break out of Arkham, but besides the point. Noble at heart. She's even helped him withstand toxins from other villains, like making him immune to Scarecrow's fear gas. These days, Poison Ivy is actually pretty good, alongside her girlfriend Harley Quinn, often aiming to do the right thing, although their means of getting there is somewhat questionable. Speaking of, in at 4, Harley Quinn. Batman and Harley Quinn have worked together a handful of times. One of the most recent times comes in the form of the animated film, aptly titled Batman and Harley Quinn. The film follows their attempts to stop a scheme of Poison Ivy's and the Floronic Man's of turning humans into plant-esque monsters like the Swamp Thing. Funny thing is, when Harley isn't working with the Joker, Batman has had multiple opportunities in which he could have easily had her locked up in Arkham, but he did not act on them. Maybe that's because he sees her as a harmless person without her homicidal love interest. Maybe he understands the kinds of things that an obsession with the Joker does to a person. Or perhaps he just sees the potential for good in her. But regardless, he seems more inclined to see her rehabilitated rather than anything else. The two even worked together in the Injustice universe, with them being major allies by the time Injustice 2 rolled around. Plus, for good measure, there's been plenty of times where Harley has chosen to let Batman go or not get in his way at all. And that's something he can at least not do. Moving on to another badass woman, in at 3, Catwoman. Dude almost married her, so yeah, kinda goes without saying that he respects her. Alright, let's backtrack for a sec. Traditionally, Catwoman, aka Selina Kyle, is a villain. Her first appearance in the Dark Knight comic was Batman issue 1 from 1940, and ever since she's had a major love-hate relationship with the broody hero. Her romantic attraction always being a struggle for Bruce in the early days before the Comics Code Authority cracked down on that. He would occasionally let her get away, and flirting with someone who was villainous or a criminal is something the code was like no bueno about. Her anti-hero days arguably began in the 90s, with her actions often being described as her doing the wrong things, but for the right reasons. Kinda like Robin Hood, but in a catsuit and with a whip. You can see why she'd earned the Dark Knight's adoration. In at 2, Ra's al Ghul. Ra's and Batman have a complicated history with one another. Ra's has done things like attempt to commit mass genocide by releasing deadly viruses in Gotham. You can see why Batman would not be okay with that. He once exhumed the corpses of Bruce's parents to distract Batman in JLA Tower of Babel. Also something Batman was most definitely not okay with. And Ra's also once left his other daughter Nyssa in a Nazi concentration camp. Dude! All in all, he's pretty darn bad as far as villains go. In Detective Comics issue 411 from 1971, Batman falls in love with his daughter, Talia, and Ra's begins to see him as a possible heir, figuring out Batman's secret identity, and then puts him through some tests. While Bruce rejects his offer of being his heir, since, you know, genocide, not a big fan of that. The two still manage to share a mutual respect for one another, mostly because of each other's intellectual prowess. But most importantly, Ra's is a villain who knows Batman's true identity and has never exposed him, or threatened to reveal that information since it goes against his code of honor. That being said, he did use that knowledge to fight Batman and gain an advantage in certain ways, but none of which threatened to expose him though. Gotta give it to him, that actually is a pretty cool thing to do. Finally, in at number 1, Bane. Bane is one of Batman's most relentless adversaries. For starters, he's brilliant, and we all know how much Bruce respects foes with intelligence that rivals his own and gives him a challenge. Bane is also a foe who has followed through on his threats, and even managed to break Batman's back, a near fatal attack that Bruce eventually recuperated from after a whole lot of story arc drama, that is. Funny enough though, on occasion, Batman and Bane have actually worked together. In the Arkham City comics and the game that they're based off of, Batman and Bane worked together to track down shipments of chemicals. In the comics, issue 738 of Detective Comics sees Batman and Bane working together during the No Man's Land event. Lex Luthor almost buys Gotham and hires Bane to work for him until Batman shows up and convinces the hulking foe otherwise. And that's something Batman can respect. Bane may be a villain, but he's not beyond logic, something that he proves time and time again to the Dark Knight. He also went after Ra's al Ghul once upon a time in his Lazarus Pits. Not because Batman asked him to, but because he had his own beef with Ra's. But the foe of a foe is a friend, right? Alright, there we have it, friends. What other villains do you think Batman respects? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know your thoughts. If you dug this video, spread the love, hit that like button, and hey, why not subscribe if you haven't already? We'd love it if you joined the Nerd Squad and hung out with us some more. We also have a nifty little playlist up on the screen right now that you should definitely click because it's got a lot of other dope DC videos in it, and Marvel, and other stuff comics. It's a fun time. In the meantime though, thanks for watching, friends. I'll catch you all in the next one.